This is Chariot.
Yes, this is Chariot TV, and today is Wednesday, and we use this time to take questions and try to go into the scriptures to answer those questions live. And so, if you're joining us, this is a live episode, a live Q&A on Chariot TV. My name is Shadrach Opong, and I have in the studio with me Jonathan Mensah Bonsu. And we thank the Lord for that opportunity. We know that it is a great day to come back to you and open the scriptures with you. Yeah, nije se yenya sa konye na yenamo esua erade asam no. Nti so wabaswa na wabo modena wahye dwumadie no na yenyina yetumi esua bibri edi efremo. Nti no odofo awhwen and then like I say bantam kra mvanche na yaba no so de yaba. Comment from highest a year motivation. I'll say good evening to you all, brethren. I'll say New King James Version for I determined not to know anything among you except Jesus Christ and Him crucified. Yes, I believe that's the same determination we have, not to say anything or share any opinions, but to know the Lord Jesus and preach about His word. Patrick Keabe to highlight and afe or change or Kentampo, a Church of Christ into. Okay, so what target Kentampo Church of Christ TV, and afe Chariot TV. Jonathan Ewufianum, Joe, now I want to say.
I'm not the moon, I'll say.
Me who doing a bend, yes, sir. And then the Kenyama.
We are Tony a crab binanka bass net to a day. That's so. Yamyadum, Yawa.
Yaba. Question be Pijanimu last week. Nay, and said this week, no. Yabasha say Eddie every honomo. Nama, yet to me, a yin se misa hodorano. But some at the amount
Okay, last week, no. My main faculty is not mentioned of course, then you know, Jibre. Na omuni ishia or Chariot TV give so. Na ishia ya pense transe mu o sa kwan so. Enti da wase o sa kwan so. Last week, no, a question I show up was a subject regarding 1 Corinthians chapter 11. And the question is that that was the crux of the question. He was saying that what does 1 Corinthians chapter 11 means? And what's Anna Uniano ASA Obusaye. But first of all, my main can say now in the problem I've seen with people trying to explain 1 Corinthians 11 sometimes come from translation. So because yeah kind Bible, no, for instance, for English translation on Chariot TV, we read English translations. Kind Bible in English, we need to get a very good translation of the English to begin with, to be able to make sense of what is being discussed in a passage. Say translation now what kind of any accurate or not accurate translation, it sometimes it will mislead you. Not even sometimes it will mislead you. to think that it is talking about something other than this. So that is the first point of contact. Maybe say at the fortune so say for the sometimes most cases in the problem what and any power or 1 Corinthians 11 comes from the translation that the person is actually reading from. It may encourage you there are several translations like NIV, NKJV, whatever. But King James translation does something which is commendable. King James,
King James, I can't there.
They can't be King James. You mean
old?
Yeah,
old King James.
Yeah, the old King James.
Not King James. Both.
They can't King James. King James and authorized one.
Okay.
The authorized old King James.
Old King James.
Exactly. They're friend old King James. And Ubi only a copy of the old King James. I have about 2 or 3 copies in there. Sometimes I refer to them. One of the things, though they have several generations, I must say this, also generations, but all of them seems to do the work. One of the things I recommend about that translation is that anytime the translator is inserting a word or the kasebi shemu achire bibia se a ono aka kire o ka kire say saade a medi shemu mia na medi shemu se ne be a ebi e beboa won ti ase, and that is good. New King James no nye ne sa NIV nye ne sa all the translations I'm aware of, they don't do that. So most cases, you tend to be reading the Bible, but you'll be reading the translated interjections. So the translator and that is something helpful. The person at the fortune. So for us to get 1 Corinthians 11 properly and understand what is going on, I suggest that the person read it from a King James translation. See, Abraham will read it from King James translation. Then you'll be noticing the words that the translator is adding, so that he can take it off and see if you read it in English, you understand what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
And to set the background of 1 Corinthians chapter 11, you go back trying to look at a good view of what is happening in 1 Corinthians. You recognize that 1 Corinthians, Paul was dealing with several problems that had gotten to him. I think in Macedonia, where he was in Macedonia, had gotten to him from Ubia, Ufri, Unya baby, a friend of Clue, the fee, and Ufriho, and they are called Macedonia, and I'll report to my Paul the problem that they are facing. They had problems with division. That people were saying that I belong to this fashion, they offend the fashionism or partyism. They had problems with that. So in 1 Corinthians 1, 1 Corinthians 2, 1 Corinthians 3, and even verse 4, Paul set out to address the problem, trying to point out that Christo mu yem papa mu. So you realize in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 10, Okasa say Christo mu papa mu na Paul no bonus in discussing all these things, trying to show that we are one body in Christ. Odu chapter 5, then he addressed a specific problem. It was reported to you, and in fact, okay, say this is what is happening in the churches. But he's still in the church, and the church are glorifying it, and he addressed that problem extensively. Chapter 6, he addressed another problem. What problem? The problem said there were brethren matter that can be settled by brethren, and you're not now I must be not the call as yet. Now and that's Paul extensively discussed that. In chapter 7, there was a problem Nyanum was facing. There were members that spouse, so man any Christian or your banso nikunu any Christian. And the question that they were arising was bothering their mind was that what is the status of Accra? What is the status? Is it clean or unclean? And what if Nipanua onyo Christo didn't say Jaibedi Mechi Nefsum Jai Christo Sumedi Mechia? What would you have to do? So Paul addressed that in 1 Corinthians chapter 7 extensively.
Joe, maybe yeah. the yeah, what I be doing say I say every chapter biano or some of Paul Eddie yin sembisabi and that's how be a cost so current as apodumu ano.
Yes, yes, essentially, yeah. Or the yin sembusa or mumu na. And one of the ways I would be who and say or shall say no cassette now concerning. So that in verse number chapter 7, verse 1, or say now concerning the things wherefore you wrote to me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. That's how much so Clopino or back Clopio your bahono. He came with his things he had seen in Corinth. Aside that, possibly maybe on one kasa and Corinth upon the small will be full. But they also sent to Paul a list of problems that they are facing. So
it will address me in this letter.
Good. The ones that Corinth upon kasa Sunday is a Paul answer or cause no. Now if I dey mochira mubisa me na mochira bre me no hono. This is it. This is the answer. Then he answers. And in fact, he also added even things that person added, not only the problem that we're facing, he also discussed extensively a Christopher what currently no so it's not essentially only problems and all discuss it. So that is how
and of problem back so all discuss here. And never be a crowd musaya or the can't because
exactly yes some of these things are all kind of so that is what was going on in chapter 8. He discusses a subject that bothers with eating of meat offered to idols. You see, about for the so they were struggling among the Corinthians because Corinth was a city that had idols. Abosom some idols some okronimu or aforibuchiafo ahodo bebre okronimu a na one more some bosom no pagans no omo ofa nuane bi se ne ye tetebe mu na kronkro a abosom som wo ho no omo fufuto bi ne aduane bi abosom aduane bi de kosi abosom nanim. And there were brethren who was struggling with this to the extent that they saw other brethren say, well, they were participating in it. Some of them were participating by offering idols and things, food to idols, and some of them too, they were eating the food that was given to the idols. And Paul has to discuss all those things extensively, trying to show to them that, well, first of all, an idol is nothing. There's nothing like so he discussed those things extensively in chapter 8, trying to show the liberty and in chapter 9, Paul set out his issue of defending his apostleship. There were people who were going around saying that, well, Paul Cornell smart for if it was any smart for Peter. So Paul set out to discuss those things. In chapter 10, Paul took the Corinthians, Israel for no abesene krono, brabo, any nyoma also musua firi omo sani omo nso ma nkonkodo abosomsom sani omo nso kondo ye na Nyankopon ese won na owu ye no. So Paul discussed all those things chapter 10 chapter 10 but I like something which I want to read from verse 29 of chapter 10. I say, conscience I say, not my own but of the others, for why is my liberty judged by another man's conscience? So he's talking about the liberties we have and not to use the liberty we have to infringe on another man's conscience. So he discussed all those things concerning a journey. It's better so mundi and mundi and in verse 32 or kind or see no offense neither to the Jew nor to the Greek nor to the church of God, even as I please all men for things, not seeking my own profit, but the profit of many, that I may save some. So the crux of it, and say, in our exercise of our liberties, we should be careful not to be stumbling block. One why my memory, one hour Jew for anyone so we should be careful with even things that we have liberties on, that we do not exercise we do not offer what do you call stumbling block to the brethren there. In chapter 11, the problem Paul is discussing, there was a problem with headship. And that is key for us to understand. Paul is not just discussing head covering per se, but the head covering is tied to headship. Because the headship, what I mean is this: the authority. On say if you your bema, right? Your bema and your oba, papa and mommy. They say papa no and the authority. So when I say headship, that's what I mean. Chain of authority. Papa and the authority. Na mommy name of frano na omunyina tie papa no to. I mean, we still have that problem still running through today. There are people who rise and say that, well, they're biting, feminist movement, movement, they are all still there. There were problems like that. And Paul is trying to address that problem. But what was specific in that instance? You see, feminism, they are not concerned about head covering. Feminism is not concerned about even dressing and stuff like that. Back then in Corinth, the problem was related to how to distinguish between a man and a woman. Sebastian, that's what the bitch is here.
Yeah.
How to distinguish between a man and a woman. And look at how Paul started the idea. Chapter 11, verse 1. Or see, be ye followers of me, even as I am also of Christ. I say, now I praise you, brethren, that ye remember me in all things and keep the ordinance as I delivered to you. You see, my King James, added the word them. So I'll be showing you what is being added and what's not being added. Or say, now I praise you, brethren, that ye remember me in all things and keep the ordinances as I delivered to you. But my King James will say, as I delivered them to you.
Okay.
It doesn't make much of a difference, but the idea is that Paul has already given them instructions, some ways to do, some things to do. You say now,
let me may establish say I am say walking a very, very critical thing. A boss open Bible ye now here. Now King James version no so supply Casanoa or supply Bibia or put it into italic. Into say oh kind King James know who italic a year. Quote young quote to year just say or quote to free old King James and also so or yeah italics I just wanted to supply.
You mean Okotu from Old Testament? Okay.
Okotu from Old Testament.
Waga, would you say that and now this is the
Okotu from Old Testament or yeah and also so italic. So far Old King James now can now who down there. Like I mean there are other things they become with you, but they are not relevant now into the Twaso.
So that is the first thing that we realize, that Paul is saying that, well, I've delivered unto you some ordinances. Then the verse 3 they say, but I will have you know when I'm person. So that is the crux of the entire chapter. The crux of the entire chapter is in verse 3. Or say, but I will have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of every woman is man. And the head of Christ is God. He's not talking about the literal head. He's talking about authority.
Yeah.
Authority. That we shouldn't breach that authority. There are several ways that possibly we can breach that authority. For instance, with fear moon, you acquire or are you separate that authority, trying to breach that authority in a house by trying to do what the man wants, the man's role, or not try to take it up and say that no, or no, we are trying to usurp that authority, to breach that chain of authority that has been established by God. So Paul is clear that the chain of authority, it starts with God, then it comes down to Christ, then it comes down to man, then it comes down to woman. And that is the key idea or the central message of chapter 11. First Corinthians 11. So you will say, what's the central message of First Corinthians 11 is in verse 3. But I will have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. Odu verse 4, as some of kind, verse 4 says, every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonors his head. Every man. So his head covered, no, dishonors his head. He's not talking about his literal head, but his yes. So good.
Christo now
exactly. So he's using head as in physical head, this head, and figurative head as in chain of authority in the context, trying to alternate it. So one of the differences, also, one of the issues also is that you should be able to distinguish between that head where is he talking about literal head, or head way is he talking about figurative or chain of authority? Minimum, I say if the measure,
because obe mention physical head. It is one say head we are seeing now what you say physical head and all kind of heart. Then it do also to not make sense in your explanation. Yeah.
So the text says that every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered. But the phrase having his head covered, no, three words in Greek, which literally means having down upon the head. Having down upon the head. The problem, I'll continue the text, but let me supply in a problem that we have been doing in the church. Sometimes when we are teaching this thing, we read verse 4, then quickly we go to verse 15 to try and find out what he's talking about head in there. So what did the bitch say? So yes, you there. Oh, you can't having his head covered, you know. Then we ask ourselves, covered way, no. What does it mean? Then we go to verse 15, say, but verse 15 say, but a woman having a long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given for her as for a covering. Then we think, okay, then the covering is talking about from verse 4, hair.
Yeah.
That is how we anticipate, or we clarify that.
We supply that your friend is saying that idea from 15 here.
Yes, but the problem with it is this. First off, there are two problems. One of them is in the text. You see it as we go along. You see that. The second problem is that from verse 4 back to verse 14. Verse 14. The word covering appear is different from the word covering in verse 15.
Yeah, in the Greek.
In the Greek language.
Yeah.
You see, the day America said, they say years of sitting down with these things and being discussed in Bible class, it never came up. Because most people who were teaching us from an English text. A text no can't English, they cover. You might be thinking that, oh, okay, cover. But for the purpose of our learning, Bashadrak, I think it's worth showing that to our viewers. Maybe if you can read comments, but as I try pulling out the text.
Yes, I will do that. I was a live Q&A on Chariot TV. Yeah, sad addition we I bet bad and saying you could do home come baby, and I saw baby and yeah, 2 was the actually ye. We have some pakani na utie ya, but my day say on super foul chrono now. And they first na you can Greek na you know say you know baby, I just occupied no baby. Say ultimate such a cry. The Greek text for First Corinthians, you know, obey to me impo at the amount. And as we use a blue letter Bible, Joe, Blue Letter Bible, it to me a catcher amount the Greek side of our seminal input it say we will be a Blue Letter Bible our phone so
and no me pese issue.
Okay.
So Blue Letter Bible no. Blue Letter Bible it's even online. Meaning say when you were there.
Well, Mami shown to Hamau. Now, Blue Letter Bible, no, a bit to me, amo the exact way. A friend is saying, Greek, the Greek ne ekan into any, unya ne say, upe Greek na no one say, ube right click or right click text and so na fe no, wa pick it, ne say interliner. Then I'm aware verse 2 no into the end and open verse 7
verse 4
verse 4 into all right click verse 4 no ako interline and a concordance na a pulley amount say into the now open a covered
where's the word
kata
opinie no mihuni gene kaksika krebi ka
okay sorry I'm say the man back into mba I mean open say let me see if I can do that. I'm saying you I don't know.
Median memshare. What then online and I say
maybe a app into the area. We are
online.
The
online number. Just give me enemy. Okay, Mami had it. But you didn't free so. Na me family and good. How do you see it, my day?
Yeah, it is Zoom the no so kakra.
So media no means 2 million kakra.
Yeah.
Good. So we are 1 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 1. Oko nim kakra we are saying for the kakra ko nim. We are verse 2, verse 3 ni. Verse 3 ni. Verse 4. Verse 4 no. Verse 4 na me here. Verse 4. Verse 4 good. This verse 4. And if you look at verse 4 the word covered is this word. Have something on his head. Who has no, I just want the covering. No, it's not this word. Say past. Okay. Maybe. Is this word? No.
Then I say pay.
Maybe Mamenko 5. They say I'm looking for a word in good. This word.
Uncovered now verse we know.
Maybe covered no cry, not uncovered no. Where is it verse? So here with this one. So meaning so who are we are? We are verse chapter 11 verse 5, right?
Yes.
The word uncovered is this word akata calypto. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Good. So akata no, it's the word akata on into the word covered no actually is catalupto catacalupto is catacalupto. This word catacalupto. In fact, check it will give you the word. Let me see. Yes, is this word akata? Is it with the a no? Cataluptos. You see the word American. Good.
Yeah.
So it occurs. That word occurs 5 times in the text from chapter 5, from verse 5 to verse 13. Basa to verse 13. But Odru verse 15, then he used a different word. This verse 15. I'm had it. 1 Corinthians 11 verse 15. Look at it. Udru 1 Corinthians 11 verse 15. Then he used a different word. He used a different word. Good.
15 in show how me.
Maybe show interlinear enemy. Good. So Udru verse 15. Abra covering. This is the word. This is the word.
So now in show what? Aha.
In show aha.
So let me put it back. Still now in the show. Verse 5 now in the show.
Okay. It show aha.
So you have to close it and bring it back.
Okay. Maybe. Now I can't. Maybe I can show it again. Just give me a minute. Let me show. Yes. Now I have it. Can you see it?
Yes.
You see the word Bakuniye katakaluktu.
Yeah.
But this word is peribarulain. Oh, that PERIBOLAION. That word. This is completely different from the word.
Yeah.
Yes, completely different from the word kataluktu, which has been always been showing.
It is the first thing I do. Him say, "Obi a wusi by sorry," and say, "So who say word that you see at the can same be was sort of was some word no? It's a different Greek word that translation no English no. Ebe man na twi no be man asem krono a. But I say busa won say I didn't the Greek no. And you so asem krono no you so kasa for de kan.
Yes.
And non is enough for you to investigate into the issue. That is something I'm saying.
So my point is that from verse 3 to verse 13, covering, covered. Maku 5. All of them, he used the katakaluptus and as a word 5 times in there. But through verse 15, the covering there is a different word from the word that he has already used in the text, trying to suggest to you something. But let's go back. So that's the first issue. The person will share that text. So we'll go back to verse 5 or say, but every woman that prayed or prophesied with her head uncovered dishonors her head. So we have noticed that we have hair, which is uncovered, and her head, which is authority, which is in this case is the man. So the oba onkata ni trisuono or odi the trini, the only trini, which in other words, the three in the second one is the man. Very good, perfect. So he says that for every woman that prayed, verse 5, or prophesied with the head uncovered, dishonored her head. For that is even all that as if he were shaving. Or say,
yeah.
So the first thing that we think about is this: if the covering meant hair, why will Paul tell us that say one katani tisua etesedi wabotikwa? So to the michiasia.
Yeah. Say,
and I remember you.
Maybe what's it say?
So, but me read the verse 5. Read the verse 5 on verse 5 on the same. But every woman that prayed or prophesied with her head uncovered. So if the uncovered there means that the training we're trying to train.
Yeah.
If the head uncovered means we're trying to train, I'll say, is it dishonest her head? Fine. But what was so verse 5 now? Last line, I'll say, for that is even all one as if she were shaving.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my point is that say covering is hair and one some no can. And then Paul as I catch it say one kata with trisua, it said the wabotikwa.
Yeah.
That would have meant tautology.
Yeah, because a tikwa no chere obi a washe wuti. It is a oka say one kata uti so it is a wabotikwa. Na etikwa no an say washe wuti. So oka say it is a wabotikwa.
It is a wabotikwa. Exactly. So my first point which we have always, I mean, I've sat in classes where we have taught that we have been
and
teaching.
I think over the years we kind of run between this verse and the verse 15 to say, so one who saw say it is wabotikwa into the manasakata. So, but we have not really analyzed the sentence carefully.
Yes, that's the point. Because we drew verse 4, but then we jump to verse 15 and make conclusion that, well, the covering there is long hair. But that's not the idea. That's not the idea at all. Paul say one kata ni trisua, it is say wabotikwa. So the question is that say one kata ni tisuno say waka ocha ni trimia. Then why will Paul say it is say wabotikwa? They are not the same thing. In other words, the Paul Pastor say the covering in verse 4 has something to do with artificial covering, not a natural hair, a veil or sort of that was on the woman's head.
So the fundamental thing is establish what Hannah say. Sa oba obompaya onkata ni triso no. Sa onkata ni triso na wo ho no has to do with a veil ankasa.
A veil, exactly. Exactly. Now, Paul say one if you don't put on the veil, it is like you have cut your hair. That's the idea. Or do verse 6, verse 6 for if the woman be not covered, which I am telling us that the covering there means veil, let her also be shorn. Why will you add also to the text when they are the same thing?
For if the woman be not covered, which is the kataka loopstone.
Exactly.
Let her also be shorn. And this shorn na wohono. The Greek, to shear.
To shear,
yeah.
Not even only the thing you man can you. You might be thinking that is shown cut to share.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So the point is that Paul say oban yes on katani trisua. Any manin chani trinsue. Do you get the point? Now to ask verses now. But if yes, verses verses but verses say, but if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn, that is alternate or shaving, let her be covered.
It is a office a first and the TV no be so.
Yes.
And
yes.
Now there's a question here. And yet from the comment, but there's a question from the analysis now you're making. We just want people to understand what we are doing. Now, Joe, the question is why would Paul even bring the idea of shame? Why the idea of shame? I'm just trying to supply something so that before you continue. The idea of shame, sa abosonsam na uma udi kan ekan no. Ye wo ma na omukọ Aphrodite and Aphrodite your friends a temple ho na omu yi omu tiri kwakwa omu ase ho na omu address it to say your friends a prostitute, and they do that so that womo eba every temple no epia obia behu say womo ye prostitute. Na no na sa woni sa oba we bi ekoda, then you pay money to Aphrodite. Bosomba no. Inti no. Osman Paul say one person obey Christian, and it was a shameful thing because they were sleeping even outside. Abonten kra no more da. ubi ekunu kra ubi yere kra na enam so wabo ni tiri ho no ye no ho science no na afoforo emema afoforo ne omo ye den da shamefully. It was one of Paul say o oba eye ofere se obebo utiri ho na amana ye te se o kasma na omo ye sa na ema no ho de a ene cover uti.
Exactly.
Say one ko bo uti de a ene te se de waboti kwa. I think I just wanted to supply that part for you to continue.
Exactly. To asumame. Let me missing to asumame.
The verse,
verse 7.
Aye.
Verse 7 will say, for a man in need not to cover his head. A man need not to cover his head. Just a minute.
Verb na eno aha. For a man not to cover his head, no. The same word kataka lupto, which means to cover wholly. And I said to veil. Into Graffontia said the angle Jonathan is coming from. And that's what we are saying. Say Osha word na the text and then I'm highlighting the amount. So I hear cover no about the Greek and then the one I say no. She said the verb is saying to cover wholly. It is a very say wo no wo ubenya ubebo utiro kwakwa ase ho na wa yet say Aphrodite man no any cover it. Then he comes to the verse 6, Tell Jonathan Etri and Adrian Ediasisono. And also, for a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image and glory of God, but the woman is the glory of the man. It is I had just Osman Paul say Obama dear and sese odi bibi ekata nitire so the same verb na ekata nitire so and eno na yese sa verb we kata utire so with a veil inti entoma aye de kata itire so and aduko de kata itire so ho asem no woka. So we shouldn't always try to negate that portion. And I say mummy ye ho no mfrim say veil na ho no na nye a veil and pa it was a veil. It was a veil. We are not suggesting we are not suggesting say obi class a year obi ba sorry omuduku. That's not what we are saying. We are trying to explain the text no. Now text and then say kasa or the kan ye 1 Corinthians 11 no. Or kasa itwa so kata ni triso no. Entuma nkasa ye de kata triso. It was a veil ankasa. Iti toboase. Ye be chirema besi. Ya say nemum ye pese every verse of the text be an otia say. It is said that Jonathan no. Verb no asamo the whole chapter no so for Paul address no say and say oba eji bema tumi bema animonyam bema leadership free ninsem. That's the whole thing I will deal with. And or they akofa or they akomayen. You know, kind of analogy.
Yeah.
Between a 3 year and is a ukata utriso. Now, says sadly we know Joe. I don't want to jump the gun, but it seems like Adena or address and the people was familiar with it.
I mean the Corinthians.
Corinthians, were familiar with it.
They understand exactly what he's saying.
Because I say it is say na say ye fair say oba beboti kwa ye pension oba si litru a I don't think say no
it's not a problem for us. It's
because yempo no ya hima no ahima for no omutwa dancing cry eno no ye hu ni say nana address dancing cry efe It is say
Yeah.
a human for na aba no mo mpese o metwa muti no kra no. Wo mo hye eyi de kata eso. Na
Yes, almost share some sort of net be.
net
And
bi.
the kata,
Obo
now
kwa mfa no. Na
I said,
I said the way yitire no. What I say it yen no yen pan mu no. Saa kasa we say obayi ni tire a eni nguase no. Yen na yen nguase man. The Corinthians really understood the no can say en nguase se oba ebebo ebetwaniti. Em say also you make it clear na yento aso.
Yeah, exactly. So but ukuwanim kakra, you see, the ukuwanim kakra. Or say, for a man indeed ought not to cover verse 7. For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, which is physical head, but he ought not to cover it. Like only a Chinese animal now only be good trees that no.
Yeah.
For as much as he is the image and the glory of God. So man is the image and the glory of God. It's worth noting here, say, I mean, Kabi, I said, yes, now we had a discussion on another platform there. If we are asking ourselves, what is the image of man? It's not his hair. It's man, no, the image and the glory of God.
Yeah.
The same thing, woman is the glory of man. Obeka text in verse 7 say, but the woman is the glory of man. It's not his hair that is the glory.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you get my point?
But the woman is the glory of the man.
Of man. Good.
Okay.
Created in the image and the glory of God. The same thing, woman is the glory for the man. That is how God has placed it. Because the entire makers and the through verse 15. We would it is verse 15. Yeah, verse 15. But if a woman has longer, it is glorying to her. Why is glorying to the man? So it is glorying to her. Why? Because
Obema eye onyankopon ni munyam. Oba eye obema ni munyam. Ene nyi
oba no any munyam. And no cry no, the Bible didn't tell us that nyankopon the man. The Bible didn't supply that.
I'm just trying to create that way, no.
Very good. So that is the idea. So it was verse 7 they say, for a man indeed ought not to cover his head, which is physical head, for as much as he is the image and the glory of God. But woman is the glory of the man. That is how God has made it. Verse 8, say, for the man is not of the woman, but the woman is of the man. He's making a point. So he's bringing argument that we have to respect that gender balance, that there's man, there's woman. The Paul say, for the man is not of the woman, but the woman is of the man. Verse 9, neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman was for the man. And that is clearly established in the book of Genesis, that man was made and woman was created for man. In other words, Eve was created for Adam.
No Adam for Eve.
Not Adam for Eve, not the reverser. Verse 10. For this, because of that order God has made, the woman
so that for no is the referring to the verse 9.
Good. He's offering the reason why they have to cover their head.
Okay, so neither was the man created for a woman, but the woman for the man. Good. And for this cause,
yes, he's offering the reason why. He's offering the reason for this cause. Ought the woman have to have power? The word power here is where the issue also. One of the things that issue is on this word. The word power here is the word exousia.
Exousia, yeah.
Exousia can mean authority. It can mean power, as in the power you have. Like
it can also mean will.
it can mean will or liberty.
Yeah.
The liberty,
Mm-hmm.
you get my point?
Like
Liberty.
the liberty to do whatever you want, not
Yes.
freedom, keke, but liberty to kind of act.
Do the liberty to act, the will.
Yeah.
I think the word will even bring better, make the idea better.
Yeah.
He has the will to do what he said, and that is what I believe the text is implying here. He says that for the woman ought to have power or the will on her head because of angels.
Yeah.
Well, this has posed problem. I don't want to go into details what the angels here, but the angels here, you see, the word angel here is angelos. Angelos can mean heavenly angel, heavenly messengers, or human messengers.
Yeah.
Do you get my point?
Yes, I do. And I think
the word,
we crack handsome. Asia Hanum, also mediator. Angelo, I know say, to bring tidings, a messenger, especially an angel, or by implication, a pastor. Which I mean, is a strong for it.
Yeah, the point is that
angel or messenger. Yeah.
Yeah, the point is that the translators not have taken a stance on it. Translators not taking a stance. And what I mean is that the word actually is angelos, which literally means messenger. But to translate it messenger or angel, no, who translated the angel, that means you have taken a stance that the messenger is a heavenly messenger.
It's a heavy, yeah.
So the text, my point is that the King James translators have taken a stance that because of angel Shahano meant that a heavenly angels.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, I don't want to go into the details of whether it is heavenly messenger or human messenger. But
whichever way you pick it, it's a messenger.
It's a messenger. Yes. Yeah. But it's a messenger. So let's move on. Verse 11 says, nevertheless, neither is the man without the woman, neither the woman without the man in the Lord. So Paul wants to be clear that the man should not be thinking that he stands alone. No, he doesn't. It's neither a man without a woman or like that. But in Christ, we need each other like that. Fine. Verse 12. No? For as the woman is of the man, even so the man is of the woman. But all things of God. Judge in yourself. Is it comely that a woman pray unto God uncovered? Keep in mind, the word uncovered here is the same word we have been talking about from verse 4, Eba, which I'm suggesting to you that, yes, that word imply, yes, that word is better we translate it veiled. Let's say veiled. So he's saying that judge in yourself. Is it comely? Is it comely or is it right? Verse 13, and I make it right, yeah. Or is it proper that a woman pray unto God uncovered?
Uncovered, unveiled. Unveiled.
Yes, and the reason why Paul is asking for them to judge on it is simply because what he's talking about is something that is custom.
Yeah, the people knew.
Yes, something
that said they should judge.
Now, why would he solicit our judgment?
The judgment
for the people on this?
Hold on there. I was for Chariot TV live Q&A. As a Musan you catch them last week say ubi obusa question na obusana emu do nti beto your boss na chirichiri mu ene nti mahu other questions aba Leroy mahu question on so can you explain prophesying in the context of this chapter? We'll come and deal with that. But per se yet so because baby Joe asem we asoja o hoping kuma se metai soja o hopa say
asoja see so we
ebo muti ebo duku
Yeah, we instrumental music free wa.
Mm-hmm.
Any missionary societies need some few things.
And
One of the things that has
yeah.
troubled the church is the
Head covering.
chapter head covering issue.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
shouldn't have, but it has.
Yeah.
It has done that damage to us, but it's worth
it's
worth studying.
Ahano, yo, I didn't tell me pause no. Me pese me distracted, me disrupted the discussion no. But in time pese me o pause no. Asema I want 1 Corinthians 11 no. Me feel say Hannah and pompon so ne she.
Okay.
Because Osman for Paul say, "Mo ankasa mumu aten, jai for yourself."
Yeah.
Say obi eba na say obo mpae na so onkata ni tiri so mo na mote won mu ni say.
Yes. Say for instance, Paul never sorted out. Say well, mumu aten. Be ma bom mpae na those things are not sorted. Nyankopon supply that.
Nyankopon supply there so supplying na e no ye generic to everybody.
Yes.
But I hear no on say ye den judge for yourself. Should I say more Corinthians for no make a decision on this matter.
Yes.
And
because
they will make a decision no and they say or one can say a decision or other because
yes.
Or can say judge for yourself, but you say one would nim into one can some nim sad way. And as a one can some to me and who's and the cray was asking me.
A good example ni. When I say Ghana we Bema obo Pearson. See obo ma ko jina sorry na me catch out sorry for say mo amumu hu aten mo hwe say Bema wa Pearson news papa.
Mm-hmm.
I'm soliciting for something within their society which they already know that is not right. So what the meet here?
Yeah.
Oh, this in their society they know that it's not right. So I'm asking what Bema waboni ni hwinimu right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Simply because you know that in your society that is not an acceptable norm.
Yeah. But Oko society be musu so normal say say Kenyan or I think Kenyan society be a Kenya.
Yes, yes.
And it's our society to remember all about yes, society no omumu memo mo fuso pa.
And yes, the bigger your belly, the bigger you you can't no side your formal.
It basically say our society muna wujina ho kasa now kasa jay for yourself say a man on the day side and show man no more yes I say a bear man the ade ne shana no judge for yourself. That's the idea.
Yes.
Or that to say society we can say mo amun judge say obey my chest skirt and munyamona.
Yes, exactly.
Something like that. Yeah, answer the man a rhetorical, like it's a rhetorical question.
Yes, you don't even need to. Yes, you don't need to even answer because you know that the answer you are coming it's already set. So it's not like there are different opinions in it. Yeah. It's one.
Yeah.
It's Sweden skate. So it's a skate was done there. I don't know whether you are.
Anybody
Sweden for say this Sweden.
Sweden. Yes. Yes.
Some guy be
Scotland.
Scotland. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Or your wedding. Anna or that's hard in the suit or that suit in it. It's the wedding day, no. Unia.
Nasi ampamno.
Man for so because I say and yet, but in there Scotland, it's accepted.
Yeah,
it's accepted and it looked masculine, but so that is what Paul is saying, that judging yourself, is it comely or proper that a woman pray unto God uncovered? In other words, unveiled. Is it proper? That's what I'm trying to say. Verse 14. Do not even nature itself teach you Very good. Then the first thing that we have to understand is the word nature. Is the word physis. The word is physis. Well, nature does not necessarily imply the nyankopon.
Yeah.
Nature can mean a lot of things. So first of all, I mean nature can mean intrinsic nature.
Yeah.
In other words, the nyankopon kasa aye, nyankopon abo. That is one usage of the word nature. So nyankopon aye say di pa ye wo na o ani mienu. O hene baako. O aso mienu. O ano baako. Di eni efu oditiri ho. Like nyankopon aye sa nature, that is nature. Good. But nature can also mean that what we call English language second nature. Now be a part and parcel of us.
Yeah. Yeah, our usage of something and now the constitution of something. We shall have more figurative or say native disposition.
Native disposition.
Yes.
Like that. Native disposition. Say
Abu Biatum says, say near native disposition.
Yes. So nature does not always mean said the nyankopon. And that is where sometimes the confusion comes in our Bible classes. We think that the word nature here meant that God has said that. No, it's not like that.
Yeah. And the society the Yajatum.
Yajatum say Obatri Nyinfu. That is what we have accepted. That is what he's saying in verse 14. That even nature itself teaches.
Yeah.
Nature now set that restriction. In other words, Berman Kasano say when Tautia ebefu.
Yeah.
Berman when Tautia ebefu. So you look through the Bible, we see several instances in the Bible. Several people in the Bible they had long hair. Absalom is one. Samson is one. Plenty people have that. So it is not natural. It's not natural as in God.
And it was a requirement by God for Nazarenes. Almost swear say and one of it is Samuel.
Yes, Samuel. Yes.
Say onye Nazarene.
So the point is this. Say Bema when trying to not like Nankopon in such a way that Bema treating. No, it's not.
Yeah, and Joe Yantu was the interest I didn't kakra. Say some of us have been teaching this. Make a home. I am not coming to deny it. Over the years, say when Yankopon ma oba triwi bebre into oba triwi efu eshe na nimunyam. But the SAT sense no cre ema genetically ema triwi fu more esen emema, right? But offer oba ejina ha oba kwala ana oba kra wanyini ejina ha a won twiniti na fa be ma won so anyini jina ha a won twiniti a yo wo mu nyina ati no o mu jano no mu antwitwa ebe den.
And let me comment. Let me comment on the genetics. You see, check here. It's not only genetic that man marry you. Women apply more hair products on their head than men.
Yeah.
Me say, I don't even apply pomade there. But obadi or better hair cream.
Or better the cream.
Or better the
your conditioning and your hair food.
Shampoo. Hair food.
Hair food.
That's animal. It is only the food champion. It's understandable. So it's not intrinsically genetics. That's my point.
Yeah, but the point is that I agree with you in a sense. Say, you won't call me new jina ho. On ma say, me ma ma wo mi. Eje bodu ene se wa. Wo mo etriwin wu jaya. Omu nyina etriwin be dey.
Ebefu.
Enti enkoba say eje ye be ma nti ni triwin ni ufu.
Debi
na efu. Enti efri say me wo eje bodu no. Se ka ma nyi ni ti da ebisi na. Se de se wa sekan kan ni ti da no a. Enka Nititi says a word the
Pepe. Say we have obeche no kwa
kakra bi. You know, yes, genetically, no. I don't want us to
rule out. No, of course, it's part. It's part because we have different hormones, different.
Yeah, but the entire yeah, can I say when you say, oh, or bad by nature, no, we don't disagree that. But the point is say, and yes, by nature, the team with chairman tea, and actually say, Unyankopon, dama, or bar a means on Catanitino. Says, Sadia, and then I say, Oba biano, and says, Oba, your friend is saying, on returning to me, because a man will mutru ya akatio. Yes, or no, Nyankopon, akesena, because you can say, Nyankopon bless him ma with 3 years. That's all, no, yakesena.
So that's the point.
It doesn't mean that.
So verse 14 is trying to tell us that our society has set in boundaries. They are setting a distinction between a man and a woman.
Mm-hmm.
The society has set it that the woman should leave his hair and the man should cut his hair.
Yes. Yeah. Who's so near the IS?
Yeah, who's so near the IS? So the society has set that boundary. Into a credit saying now, bar in charity. Berman, near charity, now hairline in a coach, near coach, near the other. So we have set that boundary. They are setting boundary because of our society. They are setting our boundary like that is there. That is what verse 14 is saying. That nature itself teach you that if a man has a long hair, it is shameful to him. Why? Because the society look at those things as shameful.
Yeah, it is shameful. No, nature.
Nakupon
say Obama etri doso a enumguase. Ene say enumguase bia. Ene na Nyankopon adenti no pese ogu Samson enimu ase.
Samson enimu ase. And no pese ogu. Yes. Omo from that then.
Samuel enimu ase no catch up say mo muntwa omutri.
After no munyina ogu. Why would he do that?
I think over the years, the chairman would more as a 12 months they share the it, you know, yes, it is true, say nature actually say yenye a memory chomuti and a ma eki putri na don swamom na momo ahwa ye femo it, you know, and no ye decide the yen nipa and your society no decide say obey my gentry. Na unim se ye kra asitram Ghana asitram no se o yo ba na kofa be ma biba se be ma we na so person ware me na na nanom hwe no na wagina ne ti kuha enye se wabompo wagina obeka say e dey no kofa be oh because you understand ni say obema dey say o dey Ochitwa itire. Saran so na so we bema. Na akofo oba bi be fie se obeware no. Na oba wa kokwa. Era jo odi ekutu asra na eti shem a. Eno so na nanom be kasa ho. Iti no eye denti no mo kasa ho because eye nature ya trans yesumu na ye ya gisa ade na tum. So that's what the Bible is saying.
Yeah,
in this case, the current for us and worker.
Yes, let me supply something in verse 14. So Paul was talking about veiling, veil and unveil. But Paul wants to teach us something that there are things that has been accepted in their society.
Yeah.
And he used the hair, the social distinction between long hair and short hair for men and long hair for women, to try and teach them a lesson that even the society make a distinction. Why do you want to even try to blur this distinction?
Yeah.
And that is what it's saying in verse 14. That it is Mahusio Cranch say, Bermatrini Dawson and long hair and
yep.
The reason is that the society has set that boundary that. And all kind of verse 50 say, but if a woman has a long hair, about Trini Dawson, I didn't hear the society have set that distinction there.
Yeah.
For her
society.
Yes.
Society.
Yeah, her hair is given to her as a covering. So verse 14 and verse 15 is not a major point. Verse 14 and verse 15 is trying to show them, itimu kwa muhwe mu society mu kwa mu hu se e matri ni do so e mama e treati mu hu sa dey that distinction.
What would difference when society no more difference it's
Why
the
do you
same
want to
in a society no so asset be before.
So oba bomb paya on mama ne
exactly society no mu society na asset be say e say obema ye den en say obema dey veil gu ni tiri so demo oba de e so yosa.
Yes,
but you unim the interesting part of asema ye kan unim say Jew for mema no ebinum also almost kobo empire
so.
Yes, so it was a cultural thing. Even Jew for no the mema cry ye no, but the back current there
it was
different. Mema sano as
yes, so it was a cultural thing there. It's specific to Corinth. So in fact, in verse 16, Paul can say, if any man seem to be contentious, any man he's talking about is the Corinthians who are there. We have no such custom.
It is some na ewo mumu Corinth hodo.
Yeni
ebe Kristo mu a yeni sa mamre
no. Na nyankopon asofo neither the churches of God. Nyankopon asofo no nso ni sa amane no.
Wow. It Joe asem ya on say ya sabobo asa ya koye ni ba e na ya ba besa your friend say ba ko no dey say akakuma say dwam ezi on say bobo dey ya koye ni na ba echi koye ni na ba echi na omo follow ye no say we obi a wo follow ye dey person establish ni say ye pay so Unyankopon asam nka nkyere say o ye oba na okwa asori a kata utiri so
Dabi
Unyankopon asam nka ansa intino we are not going to tell obi say Bible say kata utiri so boduku the text
we don't have that custom
ye ni sa custom no
Ghana na say baby a wuti say what's there
India. I think some societies in India have that custom. Say oba cover uti say oba sorry.
Yes. Saudi Arabia
Saudi
Arabia
the
woman has to veil.
Yeah,
so you have to veil.
Exactly to society now they are no and say we don't bear them because saho will be no because you guys are dishonoring your head. That's the point that Paul was making. It's the person establishing say the head covering in 1 Corinthians 11 no covering now all can was mean veil and kasa. But over the years, yes, and back for no. You kind verse 3 could see verse 5 for. Now you jump to verse 15 and 16. Near actually say when you go pon if you 16 cry verse 15 ijina. When you go pon the a trainer amana said and kataso.
Bashadak. I said I be about to ask no. Una be jump because
okay. Anyway, we are major.
I mean, we have talked about a bit. So the point in Bible down is meant for us to sort of read and sometimes read through properly. You see, we skipping verses and okay, we no jump up with no kind we no say we it doesn't work. And sometimes, when you are reading the Bible, read it in your original language. In other words, check the words, whether the words that you're using there are the same words. Now we use it. The problem is that when you are reading English, now what you don't say, well, Bible was not written in English. It was written in the language. So check the background language and do due diligence. And suddenly you come to a conclusion. Most of the conclusion that we have come is simply because we just want to shun or to refute one more church and from master. So we just find verses and here and there and try to make an argument on it and go. No.
So in other words, you all can say our conclusion is right, but our approach to the conclusion has been wrong.
It's the problem. It's where the problem is. It's where the problem is. So I encourage us to better check text new.
me that say abusa for or text na yechia in First Corinthians na Jonathan waboy ya to your boy say I heard text no. The text is simply saying say oba kata utriso kata utriso kata utriso. Ena kata utriso na wo nyina no veil kataka lupso kata utriso with the veil fantoma kata so saa no wo kan ho ba wo kan bedru the verse your friend is saying 15 na em say eno na ye hwe wo bedru verse 15 na the Greek word that we use to you know ese fakata utriso no eno nko is different your friend is saying or the we use to, this is the Greek word that we use here, parabolian. Na sa parabolian ne echere clocking, a clock and as a covering. It is a covering way a different from the or the ama esrohonina. And this covering no, and Jonathan echere say, okay free sro banina or kasafa se ubide veil and kasa egu ni treso na wakata. Na one here we are some pakania ope and tem na wadwane free argument ho ne ade a ube ma ebida no credit da ho na aka me ma ebi na o jump up by verse 15 no na abeka atwi no o say enti what they enwina man se enkataso na most of the times no ye ka so the enwina man se enkataso a na ya conclude say onyankopon na di enwina man se enkataso, but that's not the conclusion the text is making. The conclusion the text is making is say society na e wo mu no ene ede amayen say oba eje ni trinwi bebre a hye na monyam nti onya bema enso ntwitwa ni tre ho saa na society no ede amayen nti no society na de na ode amayen no ena oto aso verse 60 I say nanso so no mumma we enye entokwa ewo mu osmo for kan also, but if anyone seems to be contentious, so be we have no such custom. Yeah, Christopher, ye nisa mrano say, etwa say, obema ana oba waba asore no, onfa bibi enkata nitriso. There be ye nisa custom no. I didn't know use the word custom because at the end of eye Corinth for that there no more a problem ho omu society no wo mu yi omu ti na nitiri wa kokwa na oye said be a prostitute for a year Corinth Aphrodite bosom no enti no say yo first say wo be yes ade no there ene na katawtiri so said the society di gitum no yesa esan say wan yesa na say office e ferry there and as the society no ehun ni say e ferry a ana denti na wonye the society no ehun ni say e ferry katawtiri so na wo katawtiri so a wo hye ukunu animonyam wo hye mema animonyam na wo hye ukunu animonyam a wo hye Kristo so animonyam. So that's the point he's making there. Into no a man tiase say e kwan obefa so obema ni ukunu animonyam no e say o cover ni tiri so we dey na Corinth for nye ne yasem na meka Corinth for bre no so it is obi ba na so on tisa asem yase a ene yen kan kire ne say yen churches of Christ, God mu no ye ni saa amane ye ni saa oha no into the ye pain so no saa head covering we no any a society mu into a society mu no ye apply this idea and I also be able to question but remember so ye society mu no yen ka say oba ekata ni tiri so na chese obu ni kunu there be enkamofo no ko bi anofo a ebi anofo fo no bi beye because ebi a society na owo mu no wanya sa omo no be look down upon the person. But in your society bia na eno so hu ni sa. Iti they establishing in ne na mo bi ate asense head covering na ewo 1 Corinthians no. Na ye society no Corinth for no omo custom. Omo niema bia na omo ye. Iti sa niema na omo ye no. And on kobusa ho question. They don't apply to us. They are clearly cultural issue, cultural significant. Internal. Society muno and applying to say, will be sorry no tune then say Bible see so katan three so there be verse 16 say so be sa asem no so betwe then we have no such custom, nor do the churches of Christ. Paul, Paul, minisa custom no. Na saa nso na churches of Christ for also any sa custom no. Enti no ese yehu sa de no na yehye no enso. Mention question we na answer na makoso osiden. How do we apply this passage today? Since the cultural significance of head covering has changed dramatically in most Western society, how should modern Christians apply the underlying theological principle of authority, headship, and sexual distinction mentioned in the passage? So the point is that society, page in the modern world, no, saying that baby, society na wo saying no mubu obi a wosoyoba. Ana obi oyoba, yes wosoyoba, obi oyoba. Saying the person man yom, saying the person man yom. What they say in the society, no, say, oh yeah, oba yi no ho. There's no society in our world today. Oba yi no ho no dress basa eye ombebo na baso. Debi ameka say emema mo hwe me a mo aware no. Say omo airport omo yamrante na omo gi omo ani na omo pie kwa na omo pie kwa omo pema omo yi omo yi ne ho na kama. But every time I be worry, samba no. Akwabi asem okan o se de omudi mutu. Ye de omudi mutu. Nti o ma ye de omudi mutu. Ene o ma ye de omukufie ware wo. Nti no society na nkasa kra indicate to us say omo pese oba onsiesie ne ho ye. Ondi ne ho ni. Iti sa wo oba warefo na se wo yi ho basabasa na ho enti ye na nya wuti a obekọwa so na emu se de wuti address ho oba warefo na sebio umpoke nyina egu abonten na wo mu a wotwa na unya esa the first one ga oba warefo I didn't know mokasa because omo fi say ngwase e de ma wukun. So that's how we need to apply it. Enti ye pain so no say na oba wo ye owarefo say na ye pese ehunu. Now me can be abadwe okay de one ware nkwa there be don't worry so no kai say wo kopa yire e wa sorry bi mu a na wo so be company phone ma me phone pedifo no ko busom pacho ababa wo mu hu ne sen say na osite ni suban te say ne ho siesie te say a ma me phone be ka kire oh gay we dey me tell no asem boni bia na so ntade hyemu no asa enye papa what is a mammy for no kasa pet as a no yi no basa no shantali tia na well moon in the gugu aha it no society nankasa will tell you the fata if a woman say when you go some kind say yemfa ni ewu ade nsiesie ho 1 Timothy 2 no the verse 9 no aircraft no it was say a man says your muyi. Nanso so no society nankasa frown on those things. How do we apply it? We apply it in a sense oba enkoda no ho akuku ni debi amekasa asem no me nana baako a na oye afijase he man he afijase he ne. Ne a kind of say, Sama Henny. Cobrencia. Menana Cobrencia say, you need a baku kunibia with fear. Now, Otakas has some parliament. I say, a chidam betty assassin on Nimia, more like the cousin, Barbie, and the cousin in Yini channel. And I did Cobrencia Abbey Busan Penity, the cousin on Penaso. Into the be a shemu a Busan semi bahua, na mameno, as a person cassetia, Cobrencia and Cobrencia say, if you are mamma can't if you are Yanyesika phobia, Nancy Dinian Sambobusia. If you need Oba Kukunibia with fear. In other words, Oba a drew a will hold more and tries to own ube quine and I'm kind of saying ube bon. Koko a kukunin a bon and ya Oba and ya I will go ban there or quine name a bunny bonnet there. Say your bones are there to Coco a kukunin. It's your Oba now to fear. Check his animal. It doesn't matter, say. So ukunu and a disikaba. So when I also udisika kesi ebefi on mo. Try and know, say, you have a husband. Na ukunu no. And no nemo ni munyam. So oba no. So mumu put the key authority with you. But the so for because oh sabe. Even though what dream no, yes, we now control them man. About the for because sabe. Share. Ono wa sorry atena ni kunu so what will be ehu. Enti eno kra na wo try so be what is right no. Na bia wa show that family no na wa soa abusuan na to kun utiri so no. Se wo peja hu bebre obonte a abonte so for beka say wa fra atena wo kunu so. Enti no matter what, say do nyame aye no. Ye ne sa bra ho ase she wo kunu ase. Enye da bia na wo kunu be ya adwene. It's true. Tada mbako. Tada mbe but always try say we are calm down. Calm down. Now, our baby problem woman if we are. And yeah, but say a foot a cry bit to me is a free honor. Obi say what you're saying about the hair is very true. There's this male Manchester United fan who hasn't cut his hair for a year or for over a year, and his hair is a lot. Yeah, that's the point. Inti the near kind of say Sauka say nature it's about it's not true. Because yen say Obama say ujina uti ebe those who be so I say enti nyankopon na di nwi no ema Obama say ne de no so no oba de enye ketwa ana Obama de enye ketwa no oba de enye kese nyame anye ne sa omumu bia obegya bia bitrim be grow. So I said, "Ntiwin be grow." It's no, eya na ya sofo no because say, "Oh, there be nyankopon na di nwi na ama oba tiwin adose so mfanye ni tiwin kataso." That's not the text. That is not true. Obia bema oba say ogina ni tire na wantwa ebefu more. So to the make can say, It's no, say wo utiwin no gina eye society no na eka se bema enyina uti sa twa oba ginama no nyefe ma onye ninye trinwi bebre ne ngu awa mu se de ya minu no asantefo eka no into that is the text Bible no eka e de a kire. All right, who say Leroy say also is verse 13 or the context of praying in this chapter in the church or praying in our homes. Oh, this is more like the church setting as no okay. So as I say, so the church setting no, so we'll be shame na mo bompire a man mungu muveil no, because that is the cultural thing a woman. Inti monye said the bear ubi besramua. If there's a messenger, ubi bamumua, enye no. say mumu de ana say munye what is right. Inti cover your hair. Inti it's a cultural thing. Anna current for no. Eye. Emma me Doris. Chere ene ejabunsu. Ene de Italy na mude maduru. Buon lavoro. Ma me ciao ma Doris de ejabunsu. Ene de Italy kasa na mude echia me. Said the TBA and Miss Mijimo so say buen lavoro. All right. We ejabunsu. Ma Doris be or say ejabunsu and Madame Doris are watching from Italy. Good evening, brethren. Thank you for watching, Mama. Leroy question we maintain for an uncle say, hi, can you please explain prophesying in the context of this chapter? I mean, which one was the verse? I think that it was verse 4. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered. So praying, prophesying, anytime you able this word biano, a preaching some no. So Leroy, a young text in the Hebrew. So a preaching in your friend is saying biblical sense, preaching a prophesying. It's yeah contest you can't prophesy na I say or shem kon or shed the beba dachi debi. Prophesying preaching. It's prophesying ena monhwe ade bi mo amohwe no monhwe ade bi one King James version no so be a old King James no so wo kind of who word bi a ye the th asoso a e kire say continuing into in normal English no become prophesying but or the th the soso ewo old King James is the same thing e kire say person kire say a present continuous into our verb no prophesying no trophy prophetous nature to foretell event divine, speak under inspiration into preaching no exercise the prophetic office into prophesying in this sense no we are speak under inspiration obema o preachy into preaching one and Leroy na oka ewo verse 4 no into so who preaching na na prophecies prophesying, which means preaching. Into you are speaking under inspiration, under the influence of the Holy Spirit. That was it. I think some of you question Nina and no. Yes. With the MC now can't say we should zoom in. Mama Yvonne say good evening, brethren. Good afternoon, brethren. Okay. Thank you very much, all of you. Yada mo asese mo ebe joining na mo ne esuade erade adoma next week yebe sign aba mo fie na yede mo abetoa Q&A live our Chariot TV. Erade shout so jebre na we stay with us. And next we born to fan de me no ahwe 1 Corinthians 11 no. The text na yesua na verse 3 no eba bc verse 16 ekasa about head covering na you say hair covering no ofri soro ba ni nyina oka veil ho asem se wodi uti wodi entoma kata utiri so na osesa wa anye saa ene twa ho bo ho kokwa na nye te se omo muti current krom ha no se do musi twa utiri ho no na se ye wo fere so be saa de a ene ade na ho kata utiri so because kataso na mfa munyamuma ukunu no ena o kire se saa enkataso no even nature cry can kire say obema ejira ntiri bebre a na nature na ye ka no na say a society no a utim no omo ankasa and a bachelor so bema 3 doors one and you're fine. Untwa. Inti saa nneɛma no na yɛkyerɛkyerɛ mu na yɛsɛ ɛyɛ cultural issue. Nti ɔsomafo say Paul say verse 16 saa cultural issue no yɛnni bi ɛwɔ churches of Christ mu, churches of God mu. Nti no sɛ obi wɔ problem a ɛyɛ ɔno no problem. It is all bad. Sorry, na also be buduku. It's up to you. But you need enhyɛsoɔ bi ase kyinkyin a etwa sɛ ubɔ duku. Ebinom kora timi kɔ sɛ ɛyɛ sɛ ubɔ duku fitaa. There be you need saa culture no. That is what the text is telling us. Nti yɛnsua bibi mfiri mu sɛ ɛnɛ no yɛntimi kɔka nkyerɛ obi sɛ ɔmmɔ duku anaa ɔnkata ne tiri ho. Because we don't have that culture. However, sɛ woyɛ sɛmpakani na wɔkyerɛ saa adeɛ wei a susutu mmirika bra 15 no ɛbɛpɛ text no kyerɛkyerɛ mu. Kyerɛ ma nkurɔfoɔ hu sɛ the text is talking about hair covering all right. Ɛyɛ ne ti hair covering asɛm. But once paa no ɛwɔ the verse 16 no sɛ yɛba Kristo mu a saa adeɛ wei na yɛ cultural practice of Corinth. But Kristo nsɔre mu no we don't have such custom. Yɛnni saa ahyɛdeɛ no. Nti no yɛnkata yɛ tiri so. Nti no menkɔgyina 15 ho answer saa question. Ɔmo sɛ meme da kɔkɔɔfoɔ na ɔmo dɔm na asisi fam no. Ɔmo taa pɛ question no busa paa. Mo mmaa no ɔmo nkata ɔmo tiri so no. But it's a cultural issue and we don't have such custom in the churches of God. Thank you so much. Jonathan was my colleague on the show today, and my name is Shadrach Opon. Thank you very much for watching and see you next week.